Founder of Barstool Sports and popular pizza reviewer Dave Portnoy joins Tucker on Twitter. We're going to react to that today on Speechless. Cut for time. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Speechless Cut for Time. I'm using Cut for Time simply because I'm not necessarily doing a daily show right now. I got school, I got a lot of things going on. But before we get to the whole Tucker on Twitter, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, everybody. I'd really appreciate it. Hit that like button. It's right down there. Subscribe to the channel. Share the video if you like it. And comment. Let me know what you think about the interview, my reaction, everything like that. I also want to recognize, yes, I am sunburnt. I have been sunburnt. A lot of people tell me, they say, Kev, there's such thing as sunscreen. And I say, there's such thing as being Irish. And so being Irish, I burn no matter how much sunscreen I use. I got a lot of sun earlier in the week. Yeah, I'm getting better though, everybody. And I'm very happy that I am. Thank you guys so much for tuning into Speechless Cut for Time. Let's get into this interview. So Dave Portnoy is the popular founder of Barstool Sports, prolific individual as one of the kings of marketing, branding, and always speaks his mind. He joined Tucker on Twitter after having one of the most interesting business deals. He also shares a video of a fight. I've not actually seen any of this, but we're going to watch it together. We're going to react to it. And I know I've said in the past that I'm not going to do many reaction videos to Tucker on Twitter. Well, here's the thing, is a lot of people don't use Twitter necessarily to watch long form content. They do use YouTube. So I want to make sure I can bring you that content. And Tucker brings on some of the most interesting people, especially since departing Fox. And so I think it's interesting when I find a video or when I find an interview that I think would be really interesting and something I would want to react to, I'm going to do it. And so I hope you enjoy. And if you don't want to watch just me reacting to it and you want to watch it straight, I will put the link to the Twitter video in the comments section of this video. You can go check it out there. Hope you guys like it. Let's get right on into it and see what Tucker has to say with Dave Portnoy. Again, founder of Barstool Sports, very fratty brand if you haven't heard about it. Like college-age frat kids really like it. I always kind of like, I'm not even in a fraternity, but I really do like Barstool. I think they come out with a lot of fun and interesting content. So let's see what Dave Portnoy has to say with Tucker here.
You have the most fervent haters of anyone I've ever met.
Get the fuck out of front of my business.
We have fervent haters. They are quite devoted to it.
You're all talk, dude.
We accumulated some people who don't like us. They're small liberal arts. People have read all the articles that are mean about me.
You're a fucking clown.
They're all in on hating you.
I run a business.
So before I guess we even get further into this, I just want to basically say content advisory warning. Didn't know they were going to start with all those F-bombs that quick, but content advisory warning for everybody out there, as you obviously know. And secondly, yes, Dave Portnoy, when I talk about Speechless, the show is called Speechless. It's about people that have tried to be, myself included, and a lot of the things I cover are people that are silenced for simply sharing an opinion, maybe being controversial, something like that. Dave Portnoy is one of those people. Dave Portnoy has had many different allegations against him, a lot of which have been found false, and people come out just to hate him all the time, simply because he speaks his mind. He's not necessarily conservative. He's not liberal. He's a realist, at least, is the way I'd describe him. He tries to, he just looks at things from a logical perspective, from his like East Coast ideology, and just says what he thinks. And he says what's on his mind. And a lot of people like that. And that's one of the reasons why he's become popular, but he's also quite controversial.
Business. I work hard.
I sold my business twice. 100 million, 400 million, bought back for $1. That's a clown.
How does that work? So they paid what, 600 million or something for your company?
Million.
Hey, let's just give Barstool Sports back to Dave for free. Congratulations on one of the great business transactions of my lifetime.
You're kind of similar. Were you ardent, like, go Fox, go guy?
My view on Fox hasn't really changed.
Did you feel like at Fox you could say whatever you want? It looked like you guys were sticking it to Fox. It seems as if your microphone has gotten quite a bit larger. Have you been surprised by that? Do you care about the numbers? It's 100 million, it's 200 million. It's like...
Okay, this is going to be so interesting because it's going to be, it seems like it's not even just going to be an interview of Dave Portnoy. It's going to be Dave Portnoy also kind of interviewing Tucker, revealing things about the leaving of Fox potentially and all that kind of stuff. I'm really excited to see this. Let's keep going.
So imagine this as a business trajectory. You start a small business as a young man in your 20s. You make basically nothing. You work for 20 years. You build it into a much bigger business. Then a huge business comes in, buys it, hands you $100 million. You walk off into early retirement, sort of. And then they come back a year or two later and give you back your business for free. How do you do something like that? Dave Portnoy just did that with Barstool Sports, one of the great business stories in a bleak period. Joins us on our set to explain how he did that. Dave Portnoy, great to see you.
Good to be here.
How'd you do that?
I think right place, right time. We were talking a little bit. I probably owe all my haters, of which there are many, a thank you, a postcard maybe. We built the business. We have lots of fans. Over the course of 20 years, we've spoken our mind and accumulated some people who don't like us. We got sold.
You have the most fervent haters of anyone I've ever met.
We have fervent haters. We have.
They're all in on hating you.
That's a crazy thing for Tucker to say, because I think Tucker's haters are probably some of the most fervent haters I've ever seen. So that if you want to know, if you haven't really heard that much about Dave Portnoy, you don't know that much about different controversies that have surrounded him, his company, just a lot of the different drama that's gone on. For Tucker to be able to say that means a lot.
They are quite devoted to it, but we have lots of people who love us. So we sold the company to Penn Entertainment, which is a gambling company regulated by the government. And what happened was the regulators, there are a few that do not care for me, some that, more than others. And they're the types of people you'd expect not to like me. They're small liberal arts. People have read all the articles that are mean about me. Well, they can make your life hell if you're in the.
How many are there?
So each state has probably 4 regulators, and I'd say we were legal in 12 or 13 states. I know Massachusetts, they hated my guts. We weren't licensed in New York.
Even though you're a son of the Commonwealth?
Even though I grew up there, started the business there, our roots are there. We were invested. They actually investigated Barstool Sports as part of getting a gambling license. They were investigating me. I don't know about what, and I don't know why. I actually watched the gambling hearings, and a member of the board stopped in the hearings and said, I just want it on record. What you're doing to Barstool is so unfair and so different than the way you've treated every single gambling company. I want it noted. It was that crazy, but there's no oversight. There's nothing. So,
and these people are not
elected, appointed with no oversight. And basically there's nothing. A gambling regulator can say, do whatever they want. They can make up the rules, make up the laws. And what we saw with Penn over the course of 3 years is every time we took a couple of steps forward, we'd go backwards with the gamblers. We had to explain every article, every hit piece, everything that's ever been said. We were on trial. And we were the only ones on trial. It didn't matter what the backgrounds or the histories of the other gambling companies. So it became really difficult for us to succeed in this business when, for example, we weren't allowed to do college football game day shows. Like we for years would go to college campus before a football game and we do a college football show. It's called Barstool Sports Game Day. We weren't allowed to do that anymore because they said we were promoting the underage gambling. Everything we did was met with resistance. So it made it really hard for this Penn Barstool relationship to prosper. And I think Penn got to the point where they said, we're not getting the results we wanted. And it wasn't, I don't think they thought through our own fault, their fault. The relationship was much more difficult. We underestimated the regulators, how difficult they could make this.
It was the government. It's always the government, right? The government will find somebody that they don't necessarily agree with, that they don't like, that they don't love, and they tread on them. I just talked to the other day about the Gadsden flag. Don't tread on me. That's exactly what was happening here with Dave Portnoy, it seems like, at least based on what he's saying with his story. And it's absurd. And that's how the government is, right? The government is not our friend. It was Ronald Reagan who said the scariest words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And this is just another perfect example of that.
In a regulated world. So they said, we're going to partner with ESPN. They had an opportunity. And I think it's a good thing for Penn. They still own a ton of stock. But once you go to ESPN, maybe you don't need Barstool. I end up getting the company back for $1. So that's why I say thank you.
But I don't understand. I mean, but how does that work? So they paid what, $600 million or something?
Yeah, $600 million, that neighborhood.
And the regulators make it impossible to make it profitable, which I totally understand. But then how do they get to the point where like, hey, let's just give it back to Dave Portnoy for free?
So we have a great relationship with Penn, and we always did. So I do think they cared about the future of Barstool. But it's not only that. They just formed a huge relationship with ESPN, gigantic company. You have Barstool over here. We were supposed to be the media engine, and we were losing money. We're in growth mode. Barstool is growth, to try to build the funnel for gamblers. When I ran it myself, we made money. It was always making money. So The option I think that Penn probably was faced with, and I'm speaking for them to a degree, is all right, we got ESPN. Are we going to continue to lose money with Barstool? Probably not. They would have optimized it, and people who aren't making money probably would have lost their jobs. Unfortunately, I have a bigger heart than people give me credit for. I got these idiots at Barstool who had been with me for 15, 20 years. The same people. If they didn't work for me, I don't know what they got bad groceries. The morons, Tucker. They are truly morons. They fit in our circus, in our moronic world. So I looked at it, and Barstool was losing money. I said, I'll take it back. We're losing a bunch, so I got to fix it. But I know I can save all our jobs and get us back on the profitability course. So it worked, I think, for Penn, and it worked for us.
How much are they losing right now?
We lost about $10 million last year.
Jesus
That
Christ.
seems like a lot.
It is a lot. It's a ton. But I'm rich, and I can fix it. So if I have to lose money or pay for it for a month or two, fine. But we'll get back to profitable. We'll have some layoffs, but we'll get back to profitable.
See, I want to point out like the I'm rich, so I can do it. So here's the thing about Dave Portnoy that I think is fascinating is he always kind of reminds me a little bit of Donald Trump in the fact that he can kind of like he can have a sense of smugness and almost a little bit of arrogance. And it works. Like for a lot of people, you get kind of turned off by that. And you might be turned off by Dave Portnoy with little sly comments like that. Like, well, I'm rich. I mean, because it's not even wrong. He's very wealthy, but it does come off as a bit smug. But it's kind of charming when he does it. Other people, it comes off as gross and kind of just bombastic. When Dave Portnoy does it though, it's like, oh, that was kind of cute, you know?
Profitability pretty quick.
So, I mean, it's interesting. So you built it from like a single newspaper into this big company. And then a big company takes it over.
Twice. We actually sold it to Chernin Group, 2016, the media group, and then we sold it again in 2021.
Like selling the same entree.
Yeah.
So good. But why were you able to run it profitably and they weren't?
Because I think there's different goals. Like when Chernin bought it, their goal was always to sell it again. So you get revenue, and you're not really caring about the bottom line. They had money. That's not how I ran it. I was paying my bills, paying my employees, trying to buy houses. I'm not just going to waste money. We have things that we didn't have back then. I didn't have huge HR departments. I didn't have people doing pricings. We got bloated. And then when Penn bought it, they're a public company. So finance explodes because you got to do books, public, all that stuff, slash. I don't care about any of that. I care about being funny and people, doing their job.
What do you mean finance exploded?
So when we became owned by Penn, we needed our books. They're public now because it's a publicly traded company. So the process of going from a private company to public, our finance department, we hired a lot more people to make that work with what Penn needs
for compliance.
Correct. Exactly. So things that I never dreamed about as a private, not only on the financial books, but HR. Like we had first thing I did when I got the company back, and some people got mad about it. We had these little business cards in the front desk. If you see something, say something. Feel free to narc. It was basically a narc card. It had a little anonymous address to send to Penn Gaming, Penn Compliance.
So like to rat out your coworkers for naughty thoughts or something?
Yes, literally. So the first thing I did when I announced I took a company, I marched to the front, I took all the cards, I ripped them in half and threw them in the trash. If you have a problem, say it. Say it out in the open, but I don't like narking private. So there's just a lot of things as a public company that to me are wasteful spending.
See, I think that's a big thing. And that's not just wasteful spending, but also, I mean, how are you supposed to trust the people that sit next to you? How are you supposed to have honest conversations, especially in a media company? Like, think about it right now. So I work for a local radio station in Central Illinois. We're much smaller than Barstool, obviously. We have some hosts like myself who are building followings on YouTube and other social media platforms, but we're much smaller. How are you supposed to be able to trust somebody that you're working with? And when your job is commentary, when your job is to say things that you think, how are you supposed to be able to trust the people that you work with and the people around you? How are you supposed to feel comfortable actually speaking your mind if you know that at any time somebody could just anonymously write you up and you could get reprimanded for it? How are you supposed to speak your mind? At all times, I would be thinking about, oh my gosh, I got to think about what I'm going to say, because if I say something that offends this person, if I know this person's personal history or something and I say this and it could offend them, I could get reprimanded. I could get fired for that. look, and I know there's boundaries. I know everybody kind of has to self-censor. I know you kind of have to be a little bit of a social chameleon in certain ways to get around. I mean, like I have the FCC regulations. When I'm on air on the radio, I can't say certain words, like some of the words that are going to be said in here. And so if I can't say this, so obviously, yes, you have to self-censor a little bit, but how are you supposed to have trust? I feel like that's so important with the people that you work with, the people around you. When you have a team that has a common goal, you have to be able to trust the people that you're around you. And those little anonymous note cards that you could send in, that destroys trust. If you have a problem with somebody, if you have a problem with something somebody said, anything like that, address it with them. Yes, if necessary, you can go. I mean, HR is there. HR is a thing that you can go to resolve those kinds of issues. But I always think it is better to try to resolve something with somebody, because not only will that build the relationship stronger, it'll build that trust stronger, and it will make the company, the team, more cohesive. That's just my thoughts as a business major and a poli-sci major and somebody who works in a controversial field. Just saying.
What? Also just corrosive of the human spirit, like
There you go.
telling on people.
A narc card. Yeah, a narc card.
So
narc
you
card.
went to grade school in Massachusetts, right?
Yep, Swampscott.
In the in the 80s.
Yep. Oh, come on now. 80s.
I'm old.
Class of Swampscott Athletics are back alive thanks to the class of 95.
95. Nice. And congrats on resurrecting
Thank
Swampscott's
you.
athletics. If you narked on someone at Swampscott, like, was that considered good or bad?
Bad. That's bad everywhere.
Yeah.
And by the way, my leadership style, I will scream at people, but they can scream back at me. Like, and we'll forget about it in 5 minutes. I if you have issues, say it. You should know who has.
That's like such a Boston, like Massachusetts, like thing right there. That's such a stereotype, and I love it. I think it's hilarious. I kind of like it too. Yeah, yell at me. I'm a pretty loud guy. I'm a pretty angry guy, but you can yell right back at me. Just be right, at least if you're gonna do it.
As the issue, and you should fix it. By the way, they may be right. That's not saying that their issue isn't, warranted, but don't squeal. Don't say it behind closed doors. Say it like two people, two grown adults. Figure it out.
Exactly.
That's the environment I want.
Yeah. Say it like a man to my face, people used to say.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you were gone and this big company was running your company, you had an employee who read rap lyrics out loud with forbidden words in them.
Ben Mintz.
Yes.
And he got
Heard about
fired.
this.
Correct. Ben Mintz.
What was that?
That was awful. So Ben Mintz, he started a morning show, and to see Ben Mintz, he's a walking, bumbling idiot. I love him, but that's what he is. So he literally, I think he was reading, because it was Monday or something. I forget the song, but he literally was reading the lyrics off a cue card. Read it. He said a lyric that he should have, not said clearly. But his knee-jerk reaction, you can see it on the video, instant regret. Like, he was reading the song, reading the lyrics. The second he did the lyric, he kind of recoils, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That was his reaction. I don't think any.
But he didn't ad-lib though, it was in the song.
No, he was quite literally reading the lyrics.
Okay, so okay.
And it was quite obvious, even in this time, white guy can't say those lyrics. We get that.
Mhm.
But it was obvious he was reading them off.
So it'd be like reading Huckleberry Finn.
Correct.
There's a naughty word in
Right.
your reading.
And he realized it within a second. And I think everybody who would watch that video with that clip be like, that's an innocent mistake. No hate. Well, Penn fired him.
Was there an outcry? Was there an organized effort to get him fired?
No, I think what happened was Penn was afraid, and this goes back to me a lot. The people who hate us so much, the New York Times is going to write a piece about it, and they were going to make this a big issue. That's what they were afraid of. Whether that's true or not, who knows? We talked to Jay, we talked to Penn, said we think it's a huge mistake. From his point of view, he was running $1 billion business, which is what Penn is, and he's afraid of the regulators. That the regulators would say, you can't control Barstool's content. Look at this. This is an example. Your license, yoink. And by the way, as crazy as that sounds, I think there's a possibility that some of these regulators could do that because they're that delusional, that unfair.
And that's a big thing. And there's a lot of debate with this. I had a video about the whole Ben Mintz controversy. Basically, like they just described, he said the N-word because he was reading rap lyrics of a song. And that even just brings into a large debate of what are we going to, like, when we have entertainers, we have rappers, right? And they put those words into songs. And you have people that go to those concerts that, if you don't want somebody saying that word, don't put it in the song, right? Right? Why? If you don't want people saying that word, if you don't want people singing it, if you don't want people engaging, like, that's the thing, is why make your content, why make your art exclusive? And when I say exclusive, I mean, because obviously you could put things behind a paywall, that kind of exclusivity. But I mean, like, literally to the fact of no matter what you do, what you think, who you are, if you do not have these immutable characteristics, if you are not of this race, you cannot participate with my content, or you cannot fully participate with my content. Why would you do such a thing? Honestly, along with with the whole social argument with it, it's just bad business. You don't want people interacting with your content. You're going to get mad with people who fully interact with your content. And this guy, again, shouldn't have said the word. No, I'm not defending that. But he was reading it off, and then he gets fired. It's insane. Insane story to me. And like Dave said, it's likely due to the fear of the government. The fear of the government. The government is not our friend, everybody. That seems like a running theme of this interview.
So that's why they got
That's
rid of Ben Mintz.
unbelievable. So what happened to Ben Mintz? I mean, he lost his job.
Ben Mintz lost a job. I had started at the time a watch company called Brick Watch. You said call it Timepiece Company. Whatever it is, it's not, it wasn't.
Well, all the watch fetishists call them timepieces.
Well, maybe I screwed up. Here it is. I'm wearing it. We didn't sell a ton of them.
How much are they?
They're not cheap at $2,400
For one?
for one. We'll edit that for one part. So we hadn't hired anybody. And my first hire at Brick Watch was Ben Mintz to be the salesman for Brick Watch, which was great. So we hired
Unless you're Ben Mintz
Yeah.
and you're like, shit, I was hosting the show and now I'm selling watches.
Listen, I said, Ben, do exactly what you were doing before, except you do it for Brick Watch, and that's it. We did hire him once I got the company back. We hired him back right away.
That's
So
good.
he's now,
Oh, you hired him back.
now he's back at Barstool now. Yes. That was the first thing we did once I got the company back.
Good for you.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. So, and that's how it should be. Listen,
Well, that man's going to work for you for the rest of his life.
for better, for worse. Yes. And I consider myself a rational, logical person. You can tell when somebody is hateful, and
Of
you can
course.
tell when somebody makes an honest mistake. There's
Exactly.
too much
Exactly.
in this country where outcry and outrage over clearly innocent, non-hateful stuff, and that's what Ben got caught up in.
But you describe a scenario where there isn't really any outrage. There's manufactured outrage pushed by the media.
Yes,
Absolutely.
100%.
Okay, so like your average
Manufactured
person,
outrage.
no matter who he
Love
voted
that.
for, or liberal, conservative, doesn't matter. It'd be like, yeah, he's reading rap lyrics, settle down. But reporters have this role in our country where it's like, no, I can destroy someone, I'm going to.
Stir the pot. I wouldn't have thought twice. I knew it was bad in the sense of, oh, this puts a ball on a tee for people who don't like us. And that is what I tell our people not to do. But never in a million years did I dream that Ben would have lost his job over that.
It's just funny though. I mean, it's like you went into the media. I mean, it was a newspaper, Barstool
Correct.
was a newspaper which you sold, and so you were a media guy from day one. Did you ever think that we get to a place, and so was I, by the way, where the media would have this weird role that's not to inform people, it's to kind of like enforce orthodoxy?
No, and I've said this many times, as Barstool has progressed, my career has progressed. I wouldn't even say I was a media guy. I mean, I got in it. I was trying to start a business and make money, enjoy my life. But I grew up in a household where the New York Times was gospel. Like my
Yeah.
dad swore by the New York Times. If it's in the New York Times, it's true. There's no slant. That's the type of house that I grew up.
Yeah.
And then, we'd still have the conversations because he'd see what was happening with me. And it's not just the New York Times. I used to say it about Fox, when everybody's coming at everything with an angle, and you have to digest it and be aware. But it's very hard to get truthful information. I don't even know a lot of times where you go if you want a clean slant on something. Everything's so political. Everything's got an agenda. And, I think the New York Times is as bad, worse than anybody out there. Or
Did your dad ever change his view?
yeah, he's
So I'm going to keep going because I'm curious of that question. Did your dad ever change his view? But he makes such a good point. And this is what I say all the time is I am an opinion host. My radio show, my YouTube channel, all of it. I share my opinion. I'm a 22-year-old conservative college student out of Central Illinois. That is my background. I come at things with all my experiences, everything like that, and share my opinion. I am not giving you objective journalism. Now, there's a lot of times where I try to boil down things and look at it, critically think and look at it from both sides, break it down in that sense. But I'm still coming at it with an opinion, with an agenda to an extent. I'm an activist. I'm a conservative activist. So I'm bringing you things from a conservative angle. If you want another angle, go listen to Pod Save America. Go listen to NPR, MSNBC, CNN. If you want the crap, frankly, I mean, again, that's my opinion, but if you want that, go to them. I bring you an agenda. I bring you an opinion. If you want to answer Dave Portnoy's question, you're not going to be able to find any news source, anything that will give you the total objective truth. What I recommend is for any story you read, a conservative news sources, or you listen, you watch a conservative news sources breakdown of that story, and then you go and do the same for a liberal, and then see where they intersect. What things did they both say that were basically the same? That's the true story. I that's what I do. That's how I try to find the true story in things, is you find the intersection between the two primary agendas that you could find.
Come around to it. He's still, I think he may be more on a person by person basis on who is speaking, but he has come around to a degree. How could you not, unless he'd hate my guts? Because the New York Times makes it, or people like that make it seem like, I'm Hitler.
Why?
I don't know where that's.
I've said this before, but I've talked to you a lot. I've never detected any like real political set. You don't seem very political to me. I've never thought that.
Definitely Trump. The rise of Trump, I think, has exacerbated how people think in this country. He's broken a lot of people's brains. I was very pro-Trump when he started running. And a lot of it was because I thought he'd break the political system.
Well, you were right.
Correct. And he also broke a lot of people's minds. I then, while he was still in the White House, he invited me to come interview him. I'd never given an interview in my life. And I got a call Wednesday night, I think, or Tuesday night. And they said, hey, come to the Rose Garden. He wants you to interview him. It's like, all right, I got to do this. I talked to my dad, I talked to everybody, because I knew, I'm not an idiot. I knew the firestorm that can be surrounding if you look like, hey, you're pro-Trump. Doesn't matter what else you say the rest of your life, even your show, Tucker. I remember you had me on with talking about Colin Kaepernick, and people crucified me. I actually said I thought Nike made the right move by going Colin Kaepernick. I thought he'd sell a lot of sneakers. People don't listen to anything that's said. Oh, you went on Tucker, you must be this. You sat with Donald Trump, you must be this. People don't listen. They just make snap judgments. And
I think that's so important to talk about. Sorry if I just came in too hot there, but that's so important to talk about. So obviously he's talking on a larger scale, interviewing President Trump, going on Tucker Carlson. That's a much bigger scale. But at a smaller scale, I get that. You guys probably get that. That's kind of what this show is entirely about, is Speechless. Is that I have people that make judgments about me simply because they know, oh, I'm affiliated with, because I'm the chapter president of Turning Point USA at Illinois State. Oh, well, you ran Students for Trump in 2020 at ISU. You must think this, you must believe this, you must be this. I have people that have never had a full conversation with me that tell other people. I know this happens. They tell other people that Kevin Phares is a racist, homophobic, sexist, transphobic, all these things. They tell people all these things about me. They make all these snap decisions and make these judgments about me without ever actually having a conversation with me, understanding where I come from. And I think that is one of the biggest issues in America nowadays. And don't get me wrong, conservatives do it a little bit too. Conservatives, there are some conservatives out there. Oh, well, and even to other conservatives. Oh, well, you don't support Trump for 2020, or 2024? You must think this. You must be this. You're this. No, not necessarily. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. Conservatives do it to liberals sometimes too. Oh, well, I mean, let's be honest. You see somebody with maybe a snow cone color hair and you're like, oh, you must think this. You must believe this. You blah, blah, blah. You're a woman with shorter hair. You must be this. Humans do it. And I guess it's not just a conservative liberal thing. It happens. You look at somebody and they have a bunch of tattoos on them. You have snap judgments. And I think that's such a big issue. And it's really problematic as it comes to politics. Look, if you judge somebody with tattoos, I don't know the consequences, but those consequences seem a lot less than if you were to say and hate somebody that you might be interacting with on day to day because you know that they at one point interacted with Tucker Carlson or they have gone to or supported conservative candidates. Those consequences, that's what causes significant division in this country. That's what people are so fed up with, is the snap decisions or snap judgments that people make on other people. And it's highly problematic.
Now, my career, because And even with you, I'm sure this isn't a surprise. I've had people say, you go on Fox News when you're on there and you go on Tucker, what do you think? I did my research on you. I won't go, if I thought somebody was a bad guy, I wouldn't sit next to him. I wouldn't do an interview. People don't do that. And things can be said, twisted. If I read articles on me that are out there and did no back research and just took what they said at verbatim, I would think I'm a really bad guy. And I think some people may believe it and some people don't do the research. So it's a sad state of affairs. And they don't look at why this article is being written.
No, that's right.
You know, what are they trying to make money off of it? Trying to sell pay-per-view? Like, what are they doing? Like Business Insider made shit up about me. They just made it up. There's not 0.0001 truth of anything they said about me. There's zero. I was there. I'm in the room. It's all false. Well, they're a sinking ship. They're run by a crook. They need to get subscriptions. Nobody looks at any of that stuff.
Sinking ship run by a crook.
Yes, literally. Quite literally a guy who was banned. And I'm talking about Henry Blodgett, one of the great scumbags of our generation. The man was thrown off Wall Street for telling his clients to buy stocks while simultaneously there's emails of him saying they're terrible stocks. He's a crook. He runs this organization. He runs Business Insider. And I tried to sue for it because all I want to say, the reporters who wrote the articles about me, there's certain text. If you have some text, why don't you have all of them? Because I do. Why aren't they in there? Why don't you have all these exchanges? It's only stuff I sued to get this stuff released. I just want to sit with a reporter, say, can you answer how you don't have the full story? I couldn't get it. And it's scary. The court said you can't prove there's malice, meaning how do you prove that they're not lying? Like it is truly the burden of proof became on me to prove I'm innocent, not the reverse.
So last time we talked about this, you were kind of in the middle of it. And I thought that you would survive it. I didn't know that you would actually become richer and more famous. You would thrive in it. But now that the dust has settled, you're talking about this coordinated and highly aggressive attempt to make you sound like a rapist, honestly. Yes. Though they didn't even allege anything non-consensual, just for the record.
Yeah.
Because I'm as opposed to rape as anybody, right?
As am I, and it's said many times.
They really went after you in a coordinated, and again, I can't understand how aggressive it was. How did you, like, what are the lessons you learned about surviving that?
I've said this a lot. It's always helpful when the truth is on your side.
Yeah,
so
well,
I've always been truthful. I've always been myself. And I don't listen to PR. I don't listen to anybody. So
when those listen to PR,
because the PR is like everything else. It's trying to play a game. Just be yourself. Be honest. I have nothing to hide. I've never been fearful. Well, the next shoe may drop, or they may say there's nothing out there. So what do I care? I've been honest to a fault. I've embarrassing videos that have been leaked to me. I have everything. So PR will always try to play the game, how to make it go away, say sorry and things like that. I'm not sorry for anything. I didn't do anything wrong. So those allegations came out, and the next day I responded to them heads on with all this evidence that I had. But it is scary knowing that somebody can print all that stuff. And, at the time, like my girlfriend, I hadn't met her parents, and those articles are out there before I can meet. And still to this day, people will see me and they're like, oh, he's a predator or whatever. And it sucks, but it is what it is. There's nothing I can do to change that.
So what do you think? And again, you won.
Yep.
In the end. Business Insider is probably not going to be here in 5 years, and you will be. So, but what about all those guys who in 2017, 18, at the height of the Me Too, and I'm sure some of them were bad and deserved it. Some of them were not bad and didn't deserve it. Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York. I don't like his politics, but he didn't do anything, and they took his job away. Like, how do you think they feel now that the fever has passed?
Yeah, it's tough because I always will get people, because I think I am perceived as somebody who survived an attack and maybe
you
thrived.
Did. Yeah.
Right. So I'll get people from all walks who'll say, support me, or I've been through something. Can you help me? It's so hard to say because you don't know anybody's actual story, and you don't want to belittle, a victim's story if it's true. I have no idea. So I always say, for the people who got railroaded because they didn't do anything, you gotta just stick up for yourself. You just gotta be loud, vocal, and out front, and don't let yourself be at the mercy of other people.
Absolutely. And I'm going to let Tucker keep going, but I think that's important. So obviously he's addressing his false rape accusations. That brings in whole arguments regarding what should happen to people that perpetuate lies regarding something as serious as rape. Should there be punishment for people that that falsely accuse somebody of rape, sexual assault, anything like that? Let me know in the comments. What do you think? What should that punishment be? Does that actually belittle the chance of somebody coming forward who has a real story? Could it? I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about that argument. We can have that debate at some point. But also just the idea of sticking up for yourself. That's something that I feel is so lost nowadays. And it comes with that whole narc concept that we covered earlier with Dave Portnoy. The idea of, oh, well, you have this narc card, so you don't actually have to address anybody. You're not going to talk to anybody like a man. You're gonna narc on somebody. They're gonna have to have different sit downs, all this stuff. No, if you have a problem with somebody, address it with them. And no, I'm not necessarily saying this with a rape accusation or significant criminal activity, but I'm talking about sticking up for yourself. Yes, go to the police if something seriously happened. 100%. I want to be clear on that. If something serious happened, if you were a victim of a crime, something serious, like, or any crime, but rape, assault, anything like that, go to the police. That's okay to quote unquote narc. But in civil society, if you are offended by somebody, if you think somebody wronged you in a non-criminal way, address it with them. Go directly to them. Try to resolve it. Stick up for yourself. Do not let yourself be trampled on, but don't expect somebody else to do your bidding for you. Stick up for yourself. That's a huge thing I preach, self-advocacy. Because the fact that we don't have it now makes people reliant, and it goes to a broader issue. Then people start relying on other people to do things for them. Why do you think we have a significant amount of the population who are actively socialist? Why? Because they don't believe they can stick up for themselves. They don't believe that they can work for themselves. They don't believe that they can actually do things on their own. They believe that people need the assistance of somebody else. One of the biggest life lessons my mom taught me, for better or for worse, is you should never rely on anyone more than you rely on yourself. You are your best advocate. And I know that's taking it really far away from false rape accusations and everything, but the point being is be a self-advocate. You have the power to change your life. You do. In every facet. And yes, other people have the power to change your life through an accusation, a false accusation, anything like that, excuse me. But when it comes to what you can do, focus on what you can do, what you can control, the work you can do. Self-advocacy, advocating for yourself, pushing yourself forward. I just think it's a great message from Dave on that one, even if it has nothing to, even if it's tangentially related to false rape accusations.
Of people, of these men who clearly weren't even alleged to have done anything really, who got up there and said, well, women really are oppressed, and I'm sorry as a man. Like, were they getting that? It was clearly not good advice.
I think they were getting bad advice
from the PR people, right?
PR people. I've never tried. I don't mean to trash. We
Please.
a PR company on our own.
But trash the PR people.
Yeah, I don't. Marketing PR. PR is spin, right? Yeah. I mean, that's literally what it is. I don't spin. So if you like me, great. If you don't like me, great. I don't mind if people say he's a jerk, he's arrogant, he's short. I do have a very big problem if people say he's not honest. I'm honest. I tell the truth. I've told the truth for 20 years. And that also helped me because I've been honest for 20 years. So we have people, women, men, whatever, like, listen, you may not like the guy, but he tells the truth. Every single time he says something, that's the truth. It ends up being the truth. So that helps. But yeah, don't let other people, speak for you. I don't know what else to say.
I think that's really wise, but they all do. I've had friends who got destroyed in this stuff, and they always take the advice.
I remember this is recalling a conversation, you got to be willing to go to the mattresses. So when this Business Insider stuff broke, I remember being on with Jay, the CEO of Penn, and I had a girlfriend at the time. And one of the women that was mentioned, she was 19, I was like 38 at the time or whatever. He's like, can you promise to the board you won't go out with a 19-year-old? I have no visions of going out with a 19-year-old. But I'm like, well, that's legal. Like, it is legal in the United States to do that. I'm not going to agree to anything that every like United States citizen. I have no interest in doing it. Like I learned so much about it. But just to be like, yes, to make something go away, you can't do that.
Well, to have a company control your dating behavior does seem a little intrusive.
And
Quite
whatever you think
intrusive.
of dating 19-year-olds, I mean, I'm opposed,
Yeah,
but still, it's
correct.
like,
Well,
why
that's
should
my
it,
point. And
but
I
how
wasn't
can a
dating.
company tell you who to date?
And if you give, and I think this maybe with the Ben Mintz stuff, if you give people who don't like you an inch, if you back up
Yes.
an inch,
That's right.
it's done. They're coming like, oh, we made them blink, and then they're coming, and they will never get off. So I, for better or for worse, will not give an inch.
I 100% agree with that. And I say that with a lot of different things here on Speechless. Right now, that's the biggest problem that we had with the former Republican Party. That's what Trump changed for the Republican Party. For so long, we would have people that would say, oh, well, we'll just give the Democrats, the liberals, just this one, because then they'll help us out on the other side, right? That's how it'll work. No, that's not what happens. All the Republicans that flipped to vote for Obamacare, when did you ever see, when did the Democrats ever flip back to help with a sweeping conservative change? Never. Not once. Not once. You can't give them an inch. If you give them an inch, they will take a mile. We see it with a lot of different issues. It started off with just let people marry who they want to marry. And now it's, we're going to make sure that your kid has the option to fill themselves with hormones, chop off body parts, and you as a parent can't do anything about it. Look, it's oftentimes called a logical fallacy, the slippery slope, but we've seen it in real time. Give an inch and they will take a mile. We need a Republican Party with a backbone. We need a conservative movement with a backbone. Can't give any more inches, guys. The left keeps getting further left. Conservatives are pretty consistent on their ideology. I don't believe there's people that on the left that'll be like, well, conservatives have just gotten so radical nowadays. No, the conservative belief system has stayed the same. You want to know what's changed? Is we're done taking shit from people. We're done taking that crap. We're done with it. And we need to advocate for ourselves. This all goes together. We need to advocate for ourselves. We cannot give an inch because when you do, they will take a mile. Let's keep hearing what Dave has to say.
If I think I've screwed up, yeah, but not if I don't. And by the way, if they investigated every pro athlete in the country, their background, like they did me, like if you go out to a bar and you meet a 20-year-old and you're a 35-year-old athlete, they'd all be writing articles. Nothing happened. So,
and you think it was Trump?
I think Trump is what sparked the hatred towards me.
Yeah.
Like that changed the tenor of hatred in this country.
Yeah. And young men listen to you, and that's scary.
Yeah. I think they saw me as like a voice. And by the way, people have listened to what I've said about Trump. I don't feel the same way I did about him when I said I would have voted the first time. Yeah. People just don't listen to anything that is said.
So you basically, your position, and I think you're totally right, is that you've been able to survive under all this pressure and all these attacks because you don't flinch.
Don't flinch and tell the truth.
Absolutely.
So Mike Tyson once
Agreed.
said to me he had these tigers and he lived with them. They lived on his bed. He had 2 tigers and they never attacked him because they knew he was a psycho and they could smell it. But he said that when he passed 50, his testosterone levels dropped, as they do, and he had to get rid of the tigers because they could smell the weakness. And when they can smell the weakness, they eat you. Is there a certain point you think where you're going to have to kind of give this up because you won't be able to sustain the unflinching posture?
I just want to point out, because I'm really excited for this answer, but what a fascinating way to ask a question. This is why I love watching Tucker. This is why I love reacting to Tucker. This is why I keep doing these videos of reactions, because he brings in a totally fascinating story that seems totally unrelated and then applies it to this specific situation. It's the sign of somebody who's highly intelligent, really. The fact that they make such a broad connection, narrow it down, and connect it to the situation they are currently in, to try to build a parallel and ask a question based on it. It's amazing interview technique. I love it.
Maybe. I don't feel that way yet. The Penn deal certainly neutered me to a degree because I was afraid of the regulators, and it was the only time you could actually get to us.
You called it gaming then. Now it's gambling.
Gambling. What's the difference?
I always feel like the people who are lobbying for the gambling industry call it gaming, and the people who aren't call it gambling.
I'll call it the same. To me, they're one and the same. So I wouldn't do that. But
There's the honesty.
I've said to my enemies, ironically, having the pen deal is the best part for them because I did have to watch what I would say. And I knew that going in. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't go directly after a regulator. Politicians, I was supposed to stay away from.
Really?
Don't get involved in politics because they control all the licenses. So now I can do whatever I want. Say whatever I
You
want.
must be psyched.
It's good to have that feeling back. Yes.
Did you? I mean, you could retire. Did that can occur to you?
Not, it did before the deal was back on the table. But again, and I said earlier, I didn't want Barstool to just disappear. I felt comfortable as long as it was just Penn and Barstool. That Penn needs Barstool, and Eric is their CEO, and Big Cat Dan, that we had a good future, and I could ride off the sunset and be comfortable. Once ESPN came in, I was worried that could slowly spell the demise of Barstool. So I need to be there to make sure we're safe.
Does
For the future.
ESPN have a future?
I mean, they're so big. I think they do. I mean,
But compare ESPN when you started Barstool. I mean, they just blotted out the sun.
yes,
You know, and now they don't.
there's far more ways, obviously, to consume all sorts of info. I mean, when I started Barstool, the internet, if you said we ran a blog, people would be, I don't know what that is. So it's definitely far more competitive, and they've made some big changes. They cut a bunch of talent, but rights, as long as they have rights, people are going to watch ESPN.
How long till those rights go digital?
But even with ESPN Plus, and they've made a move to try to get less political because that was becoming an issue with them. I don't know. I never know. I mean, people ask me, where will Barstool be in 5 years? It's like, well, I didn't know I was going to have it back 2 weeks ago. I didn't know TikTok would exist a year and a half ago. I didn't know Facebook. Things change so fast. I think what's been good for Barstool, one of our abilities, we adapt quickly. Will
They
ESPN
are
be
a
able to
dynamic
adapt quickly?
company.
That'll probably be the key to their survival. Although they're getting in
How
gambling.
much do you know about your audience at Barstool?
Little.
Little, huh?
Little. I mean, I assume we range pretty like 18 to 40. We have men, we have women. That's a little thing that people don't understand. We've launched some of the biggest female stars in the internet age. Literally, like Jenna Marbles, first real female YouTube star. We have Call Her Daddy, which was Alex, and she signed for Spotify for 60 million. We have new girl Brianna Chicken Fry. So we have stars. People sometimes think it's just men, but we actually skew both men and women.
Where's Brianna Chicken Fry from?
She's from Massachusetts.
A lot of chicken fries there.
I think that is how she got her name. It was her handle before we had it, so she just liked chicken fries.
Speaking of food, you are still in the pizza review business.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
So I mean, I don't think anyone's ever cornered the market in pizza reviews, but I mean, you are the most powerful figure in American pizza sales.
I would agree with that.
I Googled you. I was telling you this a minute before we went on. I never Googled anyone. I Googled you, and at least half the stories are, pizza shop in name the town, Osterville.
Yeah.
Thrilled that Dave Portnoy came and ate their pizza.
We can change the fortune of a pizza place with this spectacular review.
Couple questions. Are you sick of it?
Never.
Really?
Love pizza. The biggest pain in the ass with pizza is just driving around to find the new ones. But no, I love pizza.
How do you stay slim?
It's a great question. First of all, I'm starting to put on weight, so that's changing a little bit. But I don't know. I think it was Adderall a little bit. Adderall diet.
Adderall helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, kills the appetite.
When you're on Adderall, how many pieces of pizza can you eat?
Just a couple bites.
Yeah.
It does kill the appetite.
But when you're not on Adderall,
I can house the whole thing. No problem.
yeah. What's your favorite kind of pizza?
So I like New Haven, like coal-fired. Like New Haven, Connecticut is, to me, the pizza capital, not only of the United States, of the world,
Yes.
but coal-fired. Charcoal, crispy. You want to hear the crunch. That's my favorite.
Thick or thin crust?
Thin.
Toppings?
Cheese.
Come on.
No, cheese. That's how
I know.
it's a gold medal slice. If I'm going off,
Yeah, if it's off
peppers,
camera.
onions, mushrooms.
Really?
Yep.
What about bacon and pineapple?
Oof. This interview may be old.
It's a sincere
Pineapple, right?
question.
No,
yeah,
not
bacon
fan.
and pineapple.
No.
Well,
not
I
a
think
fan.
that's crazy.
No, that's a big debate. Everyone asks that. Pineapple on a pizza. I mean, I won't judge, but I wouldn't do it.
Well, you're judging. Big
Oh,
time.
a little bit. No, I am.
100% agree. If you are a person that likes pineapple on pizza, leave it in the comments. But man, you got some self-reflection you got to do.
I'm judging pizza. I'm saying pineapple on a pizza. Bacon, fine. Pineapple, no.
Okay. Well, what about pepperoni?
Yeah, that's the number one topping in the world.
Better than sausage?
I'd prefer pepperoni.
I
Where are
100%
you on
agree.
calzones?
This is a genius
Love
right here.
calzones.
Really? Not
Yeah.
too much dough for you?
Nope, love it.
I used to work at a pizza place, and by the end, I was there for 2 years. I was only on calzones
Calzones are great.
because you can't drop anything. Like flies don't land on the the inside of the calzone.
That's true.
So 99%, and I've watched all your pizza. I've done a pizza review with you. People are thrilled that you come to their shop.
Yes.
Okay, but occasionally you get someone who's got something going on in his personal life or has a problem with you, and it doesn't go well. So we're going to put this up. This is outside Boston. What town is this in?
Somerville, Davis Square.
Somerville, Mass.
Yep, Davis Square, Dragon Pizza.
Okay, let's see what happened.
I don't know how long it was sitting there. It looked, I'm gonna be honest, it looked better in the case. It looked more well done in the case than this one. So we'll see what we got. One bite, everyone knows the rules. It is very thin. I do smell the Parmesan.
I'm getting hungry just looking at that right now.
Oh, it's a floppy mess.
I'm hungry.
Strong Parmesan. This is an acquired taste. Like if you get this, know you're gonna get hit with a left, right in the face with Parmesan. I'm not the biggest Parm guy. How do you score that? Because if you like Parm, fine. If you don't, I don't. 6-4.
Dave,
Yes.
enjoy your pizza as any customer, but I don't appreciate what you do coming in and judging a business with one bite.
Well, we do more. Is this your spot?
This is my spot.
Oh.
I hope you enjoy your pizza, but I don't appreciate what you do to small businesses.
Well, I
Oh
help.
my God.
The good news is
I
I give
don't
you
see it that way.
a terrible school.
Let me be a little clearer. Move on. Don't stand in front of my business.
Let me be clear. Fuck
Let
you.
me be clear.
Fuck
Get the
you.
fuck out of
Fuck
front of my
you.
business.
Fuck you.
Oh my
It's a public
God.
street, you
Fucking platform.
motherfucker.
Yeah, but
It's
this
a
is my
public
business.
street. This
You can-
ain't your business.
Yeah, but this is my business. If you
Fuck
stay here,
you.
I'm calling the
Fuck
fucking
you.
police.
He's right across the street. Go get him. What are you gonna
Oh.
tattle me off for standing on a public street?
Just being a fucking
Your
bitch.
shirt's 6 sizes too small, fatso.
Just go fuck yourself and
Get
the
him.
fucking platform you're on.
Oh, you don't like the platform?
Oh my
Joking,
God.
dude.
You know what? You're
Take
making
your
a
fucking
joke.
show and your fucking game and go
balls
somewhere
on
else.
that
Oh,
guy.
blah, blah. By the
Guess
way,
what?
I've raised $50 million for small business.
You're all talk, dude.
50
You're all
million?
talk.
Was that all talk?
Yeah, kind of like that New York Times article.
Here we
breaking down.
go. Here we go. Your
Exactly.
shirt's 6 sizes too small.
I don't care. I
Lose
work
some
hard.
weight.
You're a fucking joke.
You work hard?
Yeah, maybe. You,
My
like,
man.
you're so full of shit, dude.
How? Tell me how.
You're a fucking clown.
How?
I run a business. I work hard.
I sold my
provide jobs.
business twice. 100 million, 400 million, bought back for $1. That's a clown.
Everything since I got in this business that you represent is an embarrassment.
Like
to me.
what?
Oh my
Like raising
God.
50 million for small business?
Everything.
Name it.
Everything.
Name it.
Everything.
You haven't
Don't
named
play
one
your
thing.
game.
You haven't named.
See, here's the thing. Before we keep going with this, oh my God. First off, spicy, crazy. Can't believe the balls on this business owner that come out and do this. But he's totally in the wrong here. He is 100% in the wrong. If you agree with him, leave it in the comments. But what's the difference between what Dave Portnoy does and what people have been doing on Yelp for years, or what food critics have done in newspapers for years? What's the difference? You want to know the difference? Dave has acquired a significant following because people like watching it. And he's honest. Like he said earlier, he's honest. He's like, and he even said he was trying to be, before this guy even came out, didn't even know what Dave was saying. Before this guy came out, Dave said, if you like Parm, it might be your thing. If you like Parmesan, this might be your thing. For me, not my biggest, and he gave it a 6.4, which is a decent review. Decent. Not amazing, not best, not 10 out of 10, but a 6.4. Then this guy comes out and shits on him. All he's doing is reviewing the pizza, letting people know of places that would be good and places that he's heard of, places that might be bad, places to stay away from. If you make crap pizza, if you have a bad, if you are bad at your craft, maybe you don't deserve a business. But this guy actually was okay. Now he's making himself look like an absolute dickhead.
One thing.
I make pizza. It's great.
It sucks,
You're
actually.
a fucking joke.
Name one thing. Name one thing, asshole.
I've given up too much of my time.
All you've said is everything. Name one thing.
You're a fucking
Name
joke.
one
to me.
thing. Clown.
Clown.
Wow.
That'll be the most viral pizza review we've ever had. It just happened 2 weeks ago. We haven't published it.
How's this? Fuck you.
Yeah,
I love that.
divine timing. And this is where sometimes I get myself maybe in trouble by being like, when you throw the first punch, I want to bury you. So I knew I was coming on this show, and I knew your crowd, like my crowd, would be like, fuck that guy. So I was so excited for the timing because that guy went out of his way to pick a fight with me, and he knows nothing about me. Clearly, his one complaint: I'm bad for small business. Even my most ardent haters have never said I'm bad for small business. It's the only thing they'll begrudgingly be like, well, he just did it because he wants like everyone to say good job, or he has a big ego. But nobody's ever been like, you're bad for small business. That guy is what is wrong, and this may be over the top, but he's what's wrong with this country.
Oh, I
like
agree.
Fine, I don't care what your politics are, left, right. Clearly, that guy is like hates Trump, hates everything. But why do you hate me? You don't know anything about me. You
Because
come out
his wife
yelling.
hates him.
Yeah, yelling,
Clearly.
yelling. I would sit down and have a conversation, but this is what we've become, honestly, in this country. It's just you scream at each other for no reason. Like that guy just came out, had no business in anything except yelling, screaming. He's all over his Instagram page. And he's been doing it since this happened. Be like, I told him, I kicked him off the sidewalk, I kicked him off the street. He's calling for the cops. I guarantee you,
Because you're eating pizza.
yes, and I guarantee you that guy want to abolish the police about 6 months ago. I guarantee you, he's like, we don't need police and all of this, and then he's running like, I'm gonna call the cops. By the way, the cop across the street, I said hello to. He's like, Prez, big fan. I was dying for him to go ask, but that guy is truly what's wrong with everything in this country.
Absolutely. And well, I mean, we saw it, right? If you, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I had an interview, but I did a man on the street thing where I went to protesters at a Ron DeSantis event in Illinois, and they were trying to kick me off the sidewalk. They were like, well, if people don't want to talk to you, you have to leave the sidewalk. You have to leave the sidewalk. And I told them, you can't police me. It's a public sidewalk. It's a public sidewalk. It's a public protest. I can be wherever the heck I want to be. You can't tell me. You can't tell me. And it's crazy the gall that these people have, what they believe they can and can't do, the entitlement they feel for no reason. It's an unearned entitlement. And that guy is a perfect example. He's like, well, this is my business. Yeah, you could kick Dave out of your business. You could kick him out of there on your private property, but you cannot. And even then, there's still kind of some, you'd have to provide reasoning as to do so. You could face a lawsuit for that, for denying service for minimal reasoning. But the court would decide that one. But he's on a public sidewalk. If it was a private sidewalk, okay. But he's on a public sidewalk. You can't kick him off it. But these liberals just have an entitlement to them of like, well, I can do what I want. You can't do this thing because I don't want it. Because I have feelings that you cannot trample on. Nope. I don't really care about your feelings. I don't care about your feelings that much. I think we should be empathetic. But if your feelings are trying to dictate where I can and can't go in a public space, screw you. That's what I'd say. Screw you.
Do you think he took mask mandates seriously?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And by the way, I love Star Wars. So that shirt was just 10 sizes too small. But he is everything that is so wrong. And people just like, there's no matter what, he's going to hate everybody he perceives different.
How often does that happen to
Almost
you?
never. That has never happened like that.
But I mean, just in the course of your life, you're taking your girl to dinner.
Rare. I had one girl during a pizza review who screamed at me. She's like, she read all the articles. By the way, and I don't want to give my enemies a playbook. We've talked about, there's been a lot of mean things said about me.
Yeah.
So when I ask, what do you hate about me? You should have one thing that's actually legitimate as opposed to the New York Times, a small business. It doesn't happen often. Most people in public are normal and nice. They're like, hey, like you. And even if you don't like me, I'm fine with it. But to attack, it's just, I hate that guy.
And how was the pizza?
Thankfully, I gave it one of my lowest scores I've given in a while.
Really?
But if you saw how I did it, even when I give a low score, I try to be nice about it. It's like, maybe you don't like parm. Maybe this isn't your thing. Because I don't want to ruin any small business. Now, I hope his business is ruined. And that may be a mean thing to say because
fair.
You should never root against somebody. I truly hope he goes out of business. Like, I'd be happy about that. Again, maybe that's too far. But when you come at me like that, and you are right, and he's drawing pictures of me being like, this guy's an asshole, and I showed him and I gave him the business. I hope not enough bad things can happen to that.
It's interesting though, guys like that, and this kind of thing has happened to me, I'll be honest, in public over the years.
I've seen one.
Yeah,
at like,
right, exactly.
yeah.
But it's always when you leave that they're like, I showed him.
Yeah, that's what
You
he was
fussy
doing.
little
Yeah.
bitch. You know, once you're gone, they're like bragging about it on social media.
And his recollection of the event, once people see the video, I'm curious even whether the people who are like defending him, because he does have his crowd being like, you showed him he's the worst. I'm curious if they watch that video
Really?
and are like, well, you were kind of an asshole to him. He wasn't doing anything, because I wasn't.
Did you pay for the pizza?
Of course.
So you were a customer.
I walked in, I was doing the review out on the street. He kicked me off the sidewalk. What are you talking about, buddy? Like, and what are you talking, Pete? We're doing a pizza festival in Coney Island in September 23rd. It's the greatest assembly of pizza ever in the
Because
world.
pizza's been under attack, you know, for a long, because it does, for most non-Adderall users, does make you a little fat. I've lived it.
You only live once, though.
Well, that's my rationale. But you are one of this country's most energetic and best recognized pizza defenders, advocates. You think the whole pizza industry would be carrying you aloft?
And
that
that is how we're able to do the Pizza Fest. Because
Yeah.
all these great pizzerias who would never do this, they're like, you know what? For what Dave's done for the pizza industry, we're going to come support him. Except this one clown who doesn't deserve the same air to breathe that I do. What a jerk. Why not try to get along? Even if you have that big of an issue with me, come up and talk about it. Like, maybe you won't have the issues when we're done, instead of just coming out screaming and being a
Can I just say
asshole.
one thing I noticed? This makes me sad. I probably shouldn't even say it, but that's one of the only pizza owners I've met, including the one I worked for, who is American born. Every pizza guy I've ever met is like some immigrant who loves America.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's just like working like an animal and has the same values that I admire. That guy was like from Newton, Mass or something.
I still don't know what he was that mad about, because I asked him 10 times what your problem is with me. He just kept saying everything, everything, everything. How can you hate somebody that much that you don't have an example of why you hate him?
100% agree. I get that. I have people that come up to me and they're like, they'll come up to me, they'll hate me, they'll be like, oh, well, I heard you're that kid with that radio show, and they heard a thing about me from someone else who told them something about them. Like, no, do your research and have a conversation with me. The majority of people, there are people, you know, I've been pretty critical of the transgender agenda on here and the pride agenda on here. Man, I have had some wonderful conversations with open-minded people that are of those communities, respectful, kind, and understanding. And while we don't agree, and we usually end it disagreeing, very cordial and kind. Now, I've had others where, and a lot of times the weirdest thing is it's not people that are part of that community at all. It's usually like white liberals will hate me and talk crap about me to my face and behind my back without ever having a serious conversation with me where we try to understand each other's perspectives. Happens all the time. And that is one thing where I see that happen a lot more from liberals than I do from conservatives. There's a lot more conservatives out there that want to ask why. Now, not all of them, got to qualify it, not all of them, but a lot more liberals are heavily intolerant, which is ironic because they're the party of tolerance, love, acceptance, all that kind of crap. Gaslighting, guys, that's what they do.
He's pretty riled up. It was like he was waiting for this moment.
Yeah.
And I asked again, well, what do you hate? Give me an example. You're a joke. You're a clown. You hate small business. Well, I raised 50 million for small business. You're still a clown. Like, all right, well, you're the clown.
Dave Portnoy.
Great timing. That was God being like, here you go, Dave. Here's a little.
You've got a lot of in exchange for Business Insider. You've gotten a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Well, Godspeed. Congratulations on
Thank you.
one of the great business transactions of my lifetime.
Thank you. What about yours? I mean, you're kind of similar. What? Now, let me ask you this: before the Fox unwinded,
You mean I got fired?
yes.
This is what I'm excited
Did you think were you ardent go Fox go guy, or
My view on Fox hasn't really changed. They let me say whatever I want, whatever I wanted, really, for 14 years, and I'll never stop being grateful for that. And then, obviously, I said too much, and I'm not exactly sure what I said that was bad. No one ever told me, but one day they're like, "Oh, can't have this anymore," and they fired me. And I even told them as they were firing me, like, "It's your business." I made a mental note: never work for anyone else again, and I never will. But I can't be mad about it. I mean, they were great to me. The Murdochs were always nice to me, and one day, for whatever reason, they'd had enough. So my feelings weren't hurt. I was not expecting it.
So were you for me, when I was with Penn, I knew there were things. It's like, oh, I can't go there. They made that clear. Did you feel like at Fox you could say whatever you want?
Well, there was always internal. I mean, the Murdochs were always not. They never got in my way at all. They were always super nice to me. But there were, it's a company run by fearful women.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there were always like second tier people who were hassling my producers, but no one ever called me. I got along with everybody, but I mean, I think they knew like the censorship that's not like don't welcome that, you know? So, but they never actually got in the way of anything. Our view on the war in Ukraine was really, really hated. I could feel it. And my view was not pro-Russia, never has been pro-Russia. Just like, this is not our fight. It's not good for us. We should just put an end to the war because people die in war. I've seen it. It's bad. And just saying that was considered like crazy pro-Kremlin propaganda. And they were very mad about that. But to their credit, they never said anything to me about it directly. I could just smell it. And so I really just don't have any complaints. And I will say, and I know that you've experienced this, it's true, being humiliated in public, being fired, I have been a couple of times, is totally good for you in the end.
Yeah.
Because it keeps you from thinking you're Jesus or like getting like super crazy hubris guy,
I would think with you, it would have increased. So we spoke, I don't know, last time I was there, and you may correct me if I'm wrong. I never really struck you as a huge technology guy. You were like, even today, you're like, I Googled for the first time. So now you go to Twitter.
I hate technology.
Right. Which is now.
I hate electricity. Actually, that's how I feel about it.
So Tucker on X and all that stuff. Have you been surprised? It seems as if your microphone has gotten quite a bit larger.
Yes.
So have you been surprised by that?
No, I've been grateful for it. I mean, we like within hours of getting the boot, thankfully they fired my executive producer, Justin Wells, like within 4 minutes of firing me.
Yeah.
And he really didn't do anything wrong. He was the best producer by in all of television, and everyone knew it. And Fox has a lot of nice people, a lot of very incompetent people, obviously running it. And he was one of the only competent people in the whole business, but they fired him too. And within, I don't know, an hour of that happening, Elon called him and said, you should come to Twitter. So I'll never stop being grateful for that. We don't work for Elon or anything, but we're using the site like everyone else uses it, which is as a platform that's not censored.
I didn't know that. And that's like genius on Elon's part, because he knew Tucker was the highest rated show on cable television by far. In prime time. If you looked at any other cable television show at his time, if you looked at like any other opinion host, Rachel Maddow, if you look at Don Lemon, all those people, if you combined them, Tucker still had higher ratings. It's insane. And so Elon saw that and he was like, if you're not going to be there, I want you on my platform. Genius.
And I'm super grateful for that. I do think the downside to social media is you can get involved in like people's responses too much.
Yes,
absolutely.
No, that's soul death. It's so
you just ignore it all.
Oh, I really try to, because underneath
they were talking about you just as much when you're on Fox.
Oh, I never looked at anything. I never read. I mean, I know who I am for all of my many faults. I know who I am, and I don't need other people to tell me who I am.
Right.
And I don't, if my wife has views or my children have views or my college roommates, have a view, I'll listen and pay attention. But someone I never met, I don't give a shit.
Do you care about the numbers? Like with the Trump thing that you just did, like Austin, my guy, he's like, it's 100 million, it's 200 million. It's like numbers that are beyond compare that you really couldn't see in Fox. Do you care at all about? Do you look like, holy shit?
I mean, we're starting out. So like you want to show a force, and like, we're still here, and whatever. Paul Ryan didn't like me, but you can't make me shut up. So I think it does send a message that I think is good, not just for me, but for the country. But no, I'm not a numbers person at all. And like, I never was on our Fox email ratings list ever. Not one time. Ask anybody who worked with me. And I know how to read a ratings chart. I never looked at our ratings. I would say to my producer once a month, how are we doing? Still number one. Great. That was it. Like, I don't look at that stuff because I don't want to be self-aware, because self-awareness leads to self-obsession, which leads to narcissism and misery. So just stay away from yourself. We think about ourselves enough, don't you think?
I'm a numbers guy.
No, but you run a business.
Yeah,
so I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't run a business. If I ran a business, we'd be broke the first day.
It'd be tough to go broke with those numbers on Twitter.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I would manage to blow it all, and or just not.
He's got a lot of humility if he's telling the truth, which I believe he is. But he's got a lot of humility.
Is your dad a business guy?
He fancies himself one, but I would not say he's one. He fancies himself one, but no, not really. He was an attorney. His attorney was attorney, but no, not really business. I'm more in the business side.
Yeah. Clearly, you have a
Yeah.
gift for it. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated on the whole you to Twitter thing on the business side. Forget what you're saying was doing all of it. Like,
well, the business side's super interesting, but I really try and think only of the story and of what is the lie that we want to combat. What is the thing you're not allowed to say that you have to say and you're going to say? And also, I'm 54 and my kids are grown, so I don't really give a shit, actually. What are you going to do to me?
like to me, the Trump interview seemed like something it looked like you guys were sticking it to Fox.
Well, I would never want to stick it to Fox, but Trump called it. No, I'm not mad at Fox. I'm really not.
But the timing of it.
Well, it was the night of the debate, but the reason that it was is because he didn't want to do the debate. I didn't make that decision.
So he approached you to do it.
He approached us and said, I'm not going to do the debate. But if I'm being totally honest, I didn't really believe him because it's Trump. Like, he changes his mind. He's volatile. Maybe he decides this is a spectacle I can't.
I was on the
up.
same boat with Tucker.
We were actually traveling back from Europe that day, and Justin and I, my producer and I, were on separate planes. But we were texting from plane to plane, like, do you really think he's not going to do the debate? Oh, we didn't know.
Right.
So anyway, no, we weren't trying to attack.
Well, he may have
Fox.
been that.
Well, he doesn't like Fox.
Right, I know.
But they don't like him, and they never did. And they always had rules about not allowing him on. And my view was, I think it's totally legitimate to dislike Donald Trump. I don't hold that against anybody. It's totally fair to have any view you want on American politics. But the guy is the dominant figure in American politics.
Absolutely.
And certainly dominant figure in the Republican Party, and you're a news organization. So if you've got a rule, just because the owner doesn't like him, you can't have him on the air, you're not really covering the news at that point, are you? What are you doing? You're lying, actually.
Right.
So
that makes it no different than
that's
any
exactly
of the other
right.
networks.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Bobby Kennedy, who I happen to love, not everyone does, but that's my view of him, but they won't allow him on CNN or MSNBC. Can't go because they don't want viewers to hear what he has to say. Right. Well, I just look down on that, don't you?
100%.
100%.
You've got to be,
and that's how you know the media is controlling the narrative. The media, the mainstream media. Like, here's the thing: is I'm honest with you. You want to know the difference between me and the mainstream media? Here's the difference: is that I'm honest with you about my opinion. I let you know these are the people I'm trying to get on. Here's what I believe. Here's my opinion. The mainstream media will overtly omit things from their airing. And I've talked about this a lot. We all know this. A lot of us know this. The mainstream media will overtly omit things from their time, from their on-air time, specifically for a narrative. They won't let Bobby Kennedy on. Fox won't let Trump on, except for maybe at certain times for town halls or things like that for ratings. It's not about the mainstream media is not about getting you news. It's not about getting you a story. The mainstream media, at least, especially on the television side of it, go read their articles. I read a lot of mainstream media articles. Yes, they still have bias. They still have opinion, but you can actually dissect information from that. But if you're just mindlessly following what they're saying on their television, man, you are being lied to by everyone.
Decision. Like, I thought he should have done the debate.
Yeah.
Like, to me, if you're voting on the president, you want to hear him debate. He's brilliant. He's the best to ever play the political game. So to become president, I think it was the right move not to do it. But for the betterment of the country, I think you should be on the debate.
I kind of agree. I like the debates personally.
I mean, how else is people going to decide?
That's where I'm at.
The problem is that the news companies that host the debates are so rotten and corrupt, and everybody knows it.
The whole thing's rotten.
The whole thing is rotten and corrupt. Is Biden going to be the nominee?
I don't know. I'm not a political person, but I feel like there's been a shift where internally, maybe the Democrats don't think he can win, and they're setting the stage to do somebody else. I think it's crazy if to be honest, I think both Trump and Biden are too old. I think there should.
I'd agree with that.
Able to be that old and be president. But I think Trump certainly
I agree 100%.
More aware. I think Biden has got some serious dementia issues. Like how that is the president, I don't know. And that's not a Democrat, because I said about both. It's like Mitch, the guy who had the stroke, doing the speech the other day.
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, like what? How are these people running our country? You wouldn't put these people in
I would say in
control of a
McConnell's, the only
CEO.
defense I would say of Mitch McConnell is McConnell post-stroke is an improvement over McConnell pre-stroke.
Fair
Oh my God.
Fair enough.
You
Fair
know.
enough. Fair enough.
Oh.
There's no companies in the world where I would buy stock where you're having the CEO seemingly at that advance. It's just only in politics. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's because it's only the world.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
Not a big deal at all. And it's broken. So
Dave Portnoy, great to see you.
That's one of my favorite interviews I have seen so far of Tucker on Twitter. Genuinely interesting. And then you could tell there was even a shift in there at one point where Tucker was about to wrap up the interview around like the 35, 40-minute mark. And then Dave is like, well, I got questions for you, man. And I love that. I love that. It made it a conversation. That's what I always try to do when I do interviews is I try to have a conversation with people. And there's some people where they just want to be asked the question and answer the question, and that's the interview. But I like having a conversation with people. I like making it a back and forth. And I think that was really good. We learned a lot about what actually went down with Tucker and Fox. It seems like Tucker might have a little bit of a sting, but holds little to no animosity against Fox and the people he worked with. He's obviously doing very well. It seems like we got a very large insight into the humility of Tucker Carlson, which I loved. And then going with Dave had amazing messages regarding standing up for yourself, not giving an inch to the mob. And that's honestly, while he's not very political, we can apply that to the political activism that many of us, whether you're just by watching and sharing this, don't back down. Don't be speechless, pun intended, for the beliefs that you hold. Don't do that. We can fight and we can win, but that's because we need to be able to stand up for ourselves, speak articulately, and be a man. And when I say that, people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, you're sexist." No, what I mean, address issues with people personally. Don't be talking behind somebody's back. Don't be childish like that. Address issues you have with somebody personally. If you have an issue with me, put it in the comments, or you can always email me. If you want to make it just super personal, you can email me right there. Anything you have to say, you can shoot me an email there. Leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, share the video if you like it. But don't back down. And I love the interview. It was funny. It was interesting. And while majority of it had little to do with politics, had a lot to do with politics. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Everybody, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday. God bless you. God bless America. And you've been watching Speechless. Cut for Time.